Boyd Hankerson with FirstCoast.tv. I'm here today with State Representative Mike Hill from Pensacola. Mike, welcome to Fort Mose.
Thank you, Derek. I'm glad to be here.
Fort Mose is the first free black settlement in North America, situated 2 miles north of the city of St. Augustine and one of 167 state parks. The militia that existed here was composed mainly of Western Central Africans, today known as Gullah Geechee. This group of Africans from the Mandingo, Congo, and Mini tribes escaped the British chattel slave system in the Carolinas and found freedom in St. Augustine starting in 1610. However, between 40 and 60 free and enslaved Africans arrived with the Spanish in 1565 when St. Augustine was settled on September 8, 1565, and named St. Augustine after the North African theologian. Here at Fort Mose, Africans merged with Native Americans from various Native American tribes to include the Costas, Yamasees, Chickasaw, and Crusoe. This is the only site of the battle where the British were defeated. In fact, the mixed militia that existed here was comprised of Native Americans, Hispanics, and African Americans. These men were fighting for freedom and independence 38 years before the American Revolution. The two other forts that protected the city of St. Augustine are national parks. Two includes are the Castillo de San Marco and Fort Matanzas. So, State Rep Mike Hill, with this being your first visit to Fort Mose, what do you think of the tour in the museum?
I think it's fascinating. First of all, it's a piece of history that I was not aware of until just recently, thanks to you. And you sent me material and information about it. I've read up on some of it myself. But then to be able to walk through this museum and see it firsthand and to interact with it has been fascinating to me.
You've recently introduced or are planning to introduce, when the Florida State Legislature returns to session, House Bill 97. Mike, what is House Bill 97?
Yes, that bill has been filed both on the House and the Senate side. What House Bill 97 does is it's called the Soldiers and Heroes Monuments and Memorials Protection Act. And what it does is it honors all veterans who have fought to preserve the freedom here in America. As you know, Derek, freedom is not free. You must fight for it. And we listed all the conflicts, the major conflicts, 18 of them in that bill, to start with the Spanish-American War in 1565. Then we go on to Fort Mose battle in 1740. We then move forward into the Revolutionary War, the Civil War. We mentioned World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War. We just honor all the veterans who have fought in those conflicts. And should anyone have erected any cenotaph for those brave, heroic people, my bill says that you cannot remove that monument or memorial unless you are going to move it to a place of equal prominence. And if you do anything to desecrate a cenotaph, then it is a third-degree felony. So in other words, it is now protecting our historical remembrance of those who were so gallant and valiantly fighting for this nation.
Wow. So what are the next steps now that your bill has been filed?
The next step is for it to get what is called a committee hearing. So the committee chairman must put it on his agenda. Once that is done, I will present the bill to the committee members. Should they favorably pass it in committee, which I believe they will, then it will go to the next committee meeting. It's been assigned to 3 committees now. Once it passes all 3 of those committees, it will go to the House floor. There on the House floor, it will have a session of debate, and then the next day, or it might even be that same day, we'll take a vote on it. When it passes the House, and I believe it's a similar process over on the Senate, when it passes the floor of the Senate, that's when it is sent to the governor's desk and he signs it into law.
How can you not support veterans?
I don't think you can. I don't think you can at all. However, what we're finding, the pushback on this very good bill, Derek, are those who are trying to sabotage it and say that it's only protecting Confederate monuments. The word Confederate doesn't appear in the bill anywhere.
That was going to be my next question, and even if the term Confederate appeared in your bill, if you look it up in any dictionary, Library of Congress, dictionary and or the Library of Congress dictionaries, I think the term just means together.
That's right.
So what's the big hubbub about a word that means together? People who served together. People who fought together, people who defended America together.
Yes. So even though they're trying to hijack the bill and make it only about the Civil War, that's not the case at all. As I say, we listed 18 major conflicts, including the Bay of Pigs, is listed in there. And the reason why that is so important is because we find in my hometown, Pensacola, we find that there have been the Minuteman Monument has been desecrated.
Oh, Lord,
the Purple Heart Monument has been desecrated. We have been told that the Bayview Cross must be taken down. It's a 30-foot cross that was erected in 1941 to commemorate those soldiers who were fighting in World War II. They would meet annually, usually at Easter sunrise services, offer up prayers, protection, and just it was a big deal because the military would come and a military band, yes, would actually play. The military chaplain from Pensacola Naval Air Station would come and do the service. So it was a big deal during World War II, and afterwards they continued having those annual sunrise services into the 1960s. So just recently, in 2017, a judge ordered that it had to be taken down because some atheists complained that it was establishing a religion when they didn't even understand the history of why it was erected in the first place.
If I'm not mistaken, judges and every elected official sits behind the Florida flag. And on the Florida flag, I believe, unless it was changed in the last few hours, it says, "In God we trust." I am sure that there are atheists who protested that, but they still sit behind a flag that represents our state, and it says, "In God we trust." So what's the difference?
In fact, that is our state motto.
It is.
In God we trust.
Since what, 1854?
Correct. So it is our state motto.
Right.
So again, I don't understand the difference between that and how a judge can determine that. He said as much as he would like the cross to stay there, because of precedence that has now erroneously become law, he says that he must follow that. First of all, I disagree with that. A previous judge's wrong opinion does not become law.
No.
Our Constitution says the legislative branch
Right.
makes law, not judges' opinions.
I'm going to stay positive.
Right.
House Bill 97 talks about monuments after 1822. Why did you include that date?
Because that's when Florida became a territory. Before then, it was part of Spain and various other countries, but in 1822, that's when it became a U.S. territory.
What's your thoughts and feelings on the bill going to committee? And what can Florida residents do to help you get that bill towards the committee, get the bill to committee and also get it to the House floor to be voted on?
I believe it has a very good chance of doing that. I've spoken to the committee chairman, and he assured me, he says, "Mike, when it starts moving on the Senate side, when I know that they're serious about it, I'll take it up on the House side." He said, "But I want to make sure it's moving on the Senate side," and he said, because in my committee, the first stop is going to be Criminal Justice Subcommittee. He says, "My committee has some very big issues that we're going to be taking up during this session. And when we bring up yours, we know it's going to be contentious and it's going to probably take a full 2 hours of a committee meeting." So he said, in order to do that, I want to make sure that it's moving on the Senate side as we take it up on the House side.
I'm not that bright. I went to a state college, University of Maryland, but I'm not sure how you can have 2 hours of debate with the question whether you support veterans or not. It's either yes or no. Yes, I support veterans. No, I don't support veterans.
Exactly. What he's anticipating is there's going to be a lot of protests there from those who are saying that we're simply doing this to protect Confederate monuments. That's the furthest thing from the truth. It's part of it, and it should be, because the Civil War, as you know, was one of the bloodiest wars fought on our soil. Over 600,000 men lost their lives. Why on earth would we not include that in this bill?
Why on earth would you, Michael, or any other state legislator who takes the time to come visit Fort Mose, why would you think that blacks did not fight in the South when here at Fort Mose they're fighting for the South in 1738? And then why would you think, if that were the case, if a person like yourself or myself had an issue with it, why would our fathers have served in World War II? Why would our grandfathers have served in World War I? Why would our great-great-grandfathers have served in the War of 1812? Why would our great-great-great-grandfathers serve in the Civil War, the Spanish-Mexican War, the Seminole War, when you know that the composition of Florida was what Fort Mose looked like in 1738, and mass immigration did not start until 1820. The majority of the population in South Carolina was African American. So how can you assume, again, that blacks didn't fight alongside everyone else who was native to Florida in those battles, to include the Civil War? Why are we still stuck on stupid?
Because they are ignorant of history.
Oh, okay.
And they are intentionally ignorant of history because there is ample documentation, there is ample historical facts that, as you say, that blacks fought in the Civil War on the side of the South. And that there are several who fought that way because they were defending their land and their property.
Exactly.
And so they're trying to make it sound like that I in fact spoke to a young lady from the Miami New Times, a young lady, and she kept trying to go back to the fact that the Civil War was all about preserving slavery, and that was it. I told her, no, that's wrong. I'm sorry. I went to a military academy. I graduated from. I studied military conflict
And history.
And I can tell you that slavery was a part of the issue, but it was not the singular or only issue. There were several reasons why that Civil War was fought, and it was a horrific war. Again, over 600,000.
Just like all wars are horrific.
That's right. In terms of American lives that were lost, over 600,000. So of course I'm going to include that in my bill to make sure that those veterans are also honored as they justifiably should be.
Excellent. Well, that is all the time we have. I'm Derek Hankerson with State Representative Mike Hill. Thank you so much for coming, Mike.
Derek, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
We hope that your bill goes through committee. We hope it reaches the floor. We hope that people pay homage and honor to those veterans who served from this great state of Florida. And I am one that is from a military family that's long in the tooth. And it's nice to see that all veterans are being represented: European, Native American, Hispanic, Mexican, African American, and all those who served from Florida. Thank you so much for your time, and we're glad that you stopped by.
Thank you for having me, Derek. It's an honor. Thank you.
Yes, sir.